I just don't think South Sydney have treated him that well in terms of an opportunity to showcase if he's an NRL player.
What's the issue with the Cowboys then?
Are they responding to the coach anymore?
The way they've played in the last 3 months, I don't know how he survives.
Looking at these bottom club rebuilds, positives for next season.
Which one of those 4 sides is the closest to a premiership?
Well, mate, I actually think Souths are.
I think Parramatta.
When he has 12 NRL players have signed letters of intent with R360.
I don't think the NRL are going to be too happy with the players, agents, whoever, if that does come into play. So I think you'd have to sanction it.
So why would you give them a leg up? I say no. Stand in their way, Mick. I don't care what service Roger's given to rugby league. Stuff him and stuff rugby.
Welcome to the Code NRL show. Adam Mobbs joined as usual by Michael Carianis and Brent Reid. Big news out of the Melbourne Storm this week with Craig Bellamy desperately trying to cling on to Cameron Munster, but also Brent Reid had revelations that they wouldn't stand in his way in the midst of a massive Bears bid. But Reedy, that's not the only thing going on with Melbourne Storm. What more can you tell us?
Well, look, obviously Ryan Papenhuyzen is another of those guys whose future's been discussed and debated. He's had interest from Rugby Union, from R360. He's met with them. That's been well documented.
He's essentially off contract, right?
Yeah, but it's interesting. His contract has a clause in it. Now, it's a mutual option, which means that either party at any time can decline the option and the deal falls over. So that's for 2027. He's got till November to take up that option. He has got till November to let the Storm know whether he either wants that year taken up or wants to let it slide. Now, it's interesting because obviously the talk of R360 would start September 2026. So if he decides he doesn't want to take up the option for 2027, it potentially opens the door for him to go to R360
is that
if it comes to fruition.
Is that in the Storm's favour as well? Do they have an option for him?
No, either party can terminate that 2027 year. So even if Paps decides he wants it, the Storm can turn around and go, no, we don't want to take it up either. So either party can terminate that 2027 year by November.
It is weird to see a mutual option like that. They're not too common, right? Usually there's a mutual option where Reedy takes it up at X amount and I can take it up at a different amount, to safeguard either the player or the club or whatever the case may be. But it's very rare where it's the same value that either party can take it.
Can decline
it.
Decline
it. That's
or decline it or take it, right?
Yeah.
So it is a different option. Essentially, for mine, it doesn't mean much.
No.
That, like, in terms of his future, like, it doesn't add any extra clarity or whatever the case may be, because
it does give him it gives him power though, Mick, doesn't it, I suppose, because they've made it pretty clear they want to keep him. So ultimately he's got all the power in this situation.
So the Storm are happy to keep that option. Take up that.
Well, I would imagine they will take it up because they've made it pretty clear they want to keep.
Yeah, so you're right then. It does give him that power then.
And so Ryan Papenhuyzen, for Storm fans, will be there in 2026 regardless.
Yes, regardless.
But the next 3 months is when this clause will be in action as to when either of them can decline it for ahead of
November.
Yeah.
I believe it's November 1. I assume it's November 1. I don't know the exact date, but that makes sense because that's the date when, if he's off contract at the end of 2026, he can talk to rival clubs. So November 1 makes sense. But my understanding is Ryan wants to stay in Melbourne, but obviously this rugby thing's simmering in the background, and whether that, we'll know by then whether R360 is going to happen.
Right, okay.
Because we should know by the end of September, I think it is, whether that's a feasible alternative for some of these blokes who have apparently... So, I mean, we're being told, or we got told this week, that as many as 12 NRL players have signed letters of intent with R360. Now, I assume Paps is one of them. I assume Nelson's one of them.
Roger
is an obvious one. There's reports about Jai Gray. But we've been told that up to 12 players have signed letters of intent. So they'll know by the end of September whether that competition's a realistic option for them.
And are these 12 players, what are their contract situations? Because you've just mentioned guys who are, like Nelson and Asofa-Solomona, they're contracted long term.
Well, that's where it gets a bit murky for me, Mobsy, because we've got to be careful sort of how we dance around this, but it appears some players under contract have potentially been shopped to R360. Now, I don't know what that means in terms of, look, they're contracted, right? You can't break a contract, we know that. But I'm not sure the NRL would be happy that players under contract are being shopped to rugby union.
Nelson's a little bit different,
Yeah,
right?
he is,
Because the
yeah.
Storm would be comfortable with him leaving.
Yeah.
Right? So
Well,
I
they'd be
think,
open to a conversation.
yeah, so I don't, but, we had a report during the week last week that Zach Lomax was on their radar. Hypothetically, if that were to occur, then that would be massive drama. He's still got 3 years left on his Parramatta deal, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's what the point you're getting at, Mobsy. The fact that, Paps is off contract and some of the others that have been linked there are off contract, they can talk to whoever they want. No issue, right? But if you've got a multi-year deal with the NRL, I don't think the NRL are going to be too happy with the players, agents, whoever, if that does come into place. So I think you'd have to sanction them.
The other issue, Mick, there is, this comp, as I understand it, is due to start in September 2026. All those blokes, Paps, Jai Gray, those two particularly, Roger,
Tuivasa-Sheck,
they're all under contract at that time. They
Yeah, they're
actually
all
don't come off
contracted
contract at the end of
October.
October.
Yeah.
So actually, if this comp's going to start in September and these guys are signing letters of intent saying we want to be part of it, they can't. The NRL could step in, the clubs could step in.
They're not going to let anyone play in September, right? But the Warriors, if they're out of contention, they're not going to stop Roger Tuivasa-Sheck from going to go play. They'll just release him from his deal in October.
Well, the NRL should step in and say, no, you're not. Well, no. Why would you give them...
October?
It's a rival code, mate. You're giving them a leg up. The NRL should step in and say, no one goes till the end of October.
So you don't think someone like Roger Tuivasa?
No, you don't let him go. Because it sets a bad precedent.
If they're not breaking their contract, right?
Well, he would be. He would be.
Yeah, but you just get a release from your club.
No.
Well,
the NRL should step in.
Okay, if you're
Even
okay,
the Warriors,
if you're the Warriors and you save a month's salary, right?
don't care.
Why? On your cap?
Because you're getting
I'd save a month.
You're getting a
salary.
rival code that's coming in and taking our players a leg up. No way, mate.
If I'm the Warriors and I'm going to save a month's salary that I can pay someone else to a player that's instead of giving that player to a player that's leaving, I'd do it.
Well, you know what? If I'm the NRL, I'd give him cap dispensation. Say no, he doesn't go though. He honours his contract. We'll give you the money.
But the other point
Cap
about that is
dispensation.
you can make it even more difficult for that rival code because yes, they have to wait an extra month before they get Tuivasa-Sheck, but it might turn them off the next Warriors guy they then go and try and poach.
Potentially.
Well, the other thing is if they've got to give a guarantee that they've got a certain amount of, because as I understand it, for this comp to get up, they've got to have a certain amount of players give guarantees they will join the comp, right? For it to start, they need 300 players or something. So if Roger's one of those players that they're counting in their numbers, they shouldn't be, because he can't join the comp. So why would you give him a leg up? I say no. Stand in their way, Mick. I don't care what service Roger's given to rugby league. He's been a great servant to the Warriors, great servant to the game. But you know what? Stuff him and stuff rugby. Make him honour his deal.
For
keep
guys
him
that
out of the
have
game.
multi-year contracts, right? Their players, those players and those agents, if they have agreed or signed, they're the ones that should be facing lengthy bans.
Jai Gray, don't let him go. I don't care. Don't let him go. Why would you do it? Bugger him.
Transfer news and potentially a Halves musical chair situation going on with a couple of contracted guys at the moment. Mick, what can you tell us?
Yeah, the biggest name, I guess, is Lewis Dodd. It's been a very interesting period for Lewis Dodd. Obviously signed South Sydney last year on a deal worth around $2 million for 3 seasons to be their halfback. He's played just 68 minutes in the number 7 jersey. And Wayne Bennett had a meeting with him on Tuesday and said, mate, don't think there's a future for you here at South Sydney. If you can find another deal elsewhere, we'd encourage you to go. So that's an interesting development for the English half. And, for mine, it's been tough for him, right? He started the year injured. South Sydney have been decimated by injuries. He hasn't had an opportunity to play with Latrell Mitchell, Cody Walker, Cam Murray, right? That makes a huge difference for any half. I just don't think South Sydney have treated him that well in terms of an opportunity to showcase if he's an NRL player.
I think the issue they've had, Mick, and I know the issue Wayne's had is Lewis hasn't done enough in reserve grade to warrant playing first grade. And I think Wayne's always been wary about sending a message by rewarding a guy who hasn't played well enough with a spot in first grade. I think he's very cognizant of the message that would send to other players. So I think that's the issue, and I can understand why Wayne's done that, but I can also understand now why he's saying, mate, go find something else if there's something else out there for you, because A, they need the cap money, right? Their caps.
How much do they get though? Like
They won't
it's
get
going to
much,
be, yeah,
right?
it's going to be interesting.
They're going to wear
see
a lot
what
of his
happens.
salary, but every little bit counts. If they can redirect that energy, that money towards signing a middle forward, you know, we've heard names like Braden Ham and Ueli might be on the market. If they can direct that money towards a guy like Braden Ham and Ueli, that's for the balance of their salary cap and their squad. It's a much smarter decision. You know, I hope Lewis gets a deal somewhere else, because I don't think we've seen the best. It was pretty clear we haven't seen the best of him. He can play, man. He's played for England. You know, he was outstanding a couple of years ago for St Helens in the World Club Challenge. He's got ability. We just haven't seen it yet, and he's not going to get the chance at South. So he's better off finding a club where he will get an opportunity. Yep. I don't know where that is.
The thing that I find weird is, I take Mick's point about, you know, them not wanting to give him, and to your point about not giving him an opportunity when it hasn't been deserved, but their injury crisis at the moment, how many blokes have to fall over for him to get a proper shot?
Oh, he's like sixth in line. like seriously, if you sat
Well, he's
down,
fallen behind that kid, the kid now.
Ashton Ward, who's a
Ward.
legit part timer, he's fallen behind him.
Yeah.
Right? They've had Jai Gray, Latrell Mitchell, Cody Walker, Jamie Humphries, Jaden Sullivan, Jack Wyden. Like, this off the top of my head, all the blokes that have been picked ahead of him. Yeah, some of them are really good players, right?
Yeah.
But you would have thought, given where their season is at, even to sell him, Reedy, he'd be much more sellable if he came out and played one good first grade game.
Yeah. But that's
Right,
demoralising for Lewis Dodd, right? To
it'd
be
be
that
so
far down the
hard.
pecking
It would
order
be
from
so
what you
hard.
were brought across. And I think that's, there's got to be a lot going on. And I think that South need to answer some questions about the signing in general with this. In between...
We've asked Mobsy.
Yeah, I know.
No one will put their hand up and own this.
Of course, yeah. It's,
No
it's
one wants
funny how
to
that
borrow
happens,
it.
isn't it?
I mean, we all feel sorry for him, right? Because it's a really difficult situation for him, because he's come to the club in good faith, got a really good deal, and it's not his fault he got paid what he got paid. Someone's obviously got that wrong. And, you know, you can have sympathy for Lewis Dodd in his situation, but the fact is he hasn't owned, when he has got a chance, he hasn't had many chances, right? But when
Have you seen that team that he's played with?
I understand
What
that.
halfback's
Mick.
going to do anything?
I understand that, Mick, but he hasn't owned it when he's had the chance, and it's clear he hasn't got a future there unless he wants to spend the next 2 years playing New South Wales Cup. So for him, I just hope he gets a gig somewhere. But it's going to be really difficult, and South's going to have to stump up a lot of money for that to happen.
I don't think he walks into a starting NRL gig now, right?
No.
Like after this year. So he needs to go to a club where he thinks is a good opportunity of playing first grade and to compete for a spot. But he doesn't walk in and go, well, he's the number 7
Where do you reckon,
jersey.
Mick? What do you think?
When you look at clubs that have lost players, all right, you look at Canberra, I guess, with Jamal Fogarty leaving, and you know they've been on the lookout for an experienced half or another half. You know, he was linked to the Dolphins, who went after George Williams as well, but that door might be closed now with some other signing news that the Dolphins are about to land. So there's not a lot of options where he goes, okay, you can see him definitely competing for a spot, or does he have to go somewhere where he sits behind? You know, like
And the other great problem I reckon he's got is you've got guys potential like Sandon Smith on the market. And
Jonah Pezzett
potentially
too, you know.
And for a club, for example, like Canberra, they've got young Ethan Sanders there, right, who's next in line for the number 7 jersey. So if you're going to sign another guy who's just going to potentially be a backup, Sandon gives you a little bit more versatility. You can play him off the bench as maybe a 14. I don't think you can play Lewis Dodd in that role. So that's the worry. That's the other worry I reckon he's got. He's a half.
Yeah. He's a genuine half. But I think Canberra would be great for him, the way they're travelling and the English connection and those sort of things. So look, he wants to remain in the NRL. He doesn't want to go back to Super League. Like, he'd have 1,000 clubs lining up in Super League if he really wanted to. But regardless of what happens, if it's the NRL or Super League, South will be chipping in a fair bit of his deal next year.
Well, we've had Super Saturdays. This could be cellar door Sunday with Titans. No, it's not to do with wine.
How good.
Titans versus Rabbitohs, Eels versus Cowboys. 4 of the bottom 5 teams playing each other on Sunday. Question for you guys. Looking at these bottom club rebuilds, who's in better or worse shape going forward? Forget about this year, because we've talked about the wooden spoon battle, but I'm talking about looking for positives for next season. What do you see?
I think all those rosters are good for wooden spooners. Like I don't think they're not rosters you need to blow up and start again. No. So I think there's been reasons for all those squads where you look at going, all right, well, South is obvious, right? The injuries, right? They get, if they have less than $8 million on the sideline, they're going to be a better side next year, right? Like, it's pretty clear. I like the Titans roster, right? I just think it needs some fine-tuning because they made some bad decisions in terms of their cap balance with 3 fullbacks and the amount of money they're paying and David Feeder and stuff, but provided they can keep Tino and they're not...
And Jaden. They need to keep Jaden Campbell as well.
That roster's not horrific, right? No. You got Parramatta, who we all can see where they're tracking, right? They're going good. They're sweet. Right? Then you got North Queensland, who have one of the best... He's still a young half. He's Tom Dearden, but he's outstanding. So you can build a club around it.
Who's in the worst shape? You haven't answered that question. Pick one. Just got to pick one, Mick.
Maybe the Titans, but I don't think it's horrific. It's not like we saw when Newcastle 1-3 wouldn't finish, or the Tigers of a couple of years ago, where you go, all right, I don't see how they got their way out of it. All these players have a core of all these clubs have a core of players where you go, okay, you can see where they're headed.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if any of those sides were in the top 8 next year. With the squads they've got right now.
Agree. I just have the most question marks over the Titans because of the instability there and the question marks around Tino, right? Yeah. Like, who knows how long he's going to be there for. Will they solve their halves thing? Because they haven't done it, right? They haven't worked that out. Will anyone ever unlock David Feeder, or do we give up? Right? So I think they've got the most questions, and that's probably why I rank them
But
last.
I could see them playing in the top 8 next year, Mick.
I don't know. Yeah, like, it's not...
I mean?
Like, they're...
With the same coach?
No.
With the 4 bottom, those 4 bottom sides, none of them need to be blown up, start again. None of them have horrific rosters, which you don't see too often for that bottom contingent.
What's the issue with the Cowboys then? They haven't had really big injury lists like South have had. They haven't missed a key guy like Mitchell Moses, like Parramatta have. What is the issue with them?
Yeah, I can't put my finger on it either. I think, are they responding to the coach anymore? Like,
well, that's why he's under pressure, because their fall is inexplicable.
That first half against the Sharks was so bad.
Yeah,
it was so bad, right?
Yeah.
So they've got question marks as well. I think Parramatta are fine, right? Like, regardless of the way this year ends, where they're going, and they've got those core players locked in. Yeah. They need
a couple. They need, of all those teams, I reckon their roster needs a couple of signings.
Yeah.
The Para.
I don't think it's not the finished product, right? But you can...
I'm with you.
They're fine. They'll be fine, right? You got South, who desperately need some middles. We've been saying it for 3 years, right? But they'll be all right once everyone gets back on the park as well. So,
are you concerned about South's pathways for the? I mean, New South Wales Cup are going horrible, but that's to be understood because all the New South Wales Cup guys are playing first grade because everyone's injured. Jersey Flegg, they're not going great. They did okay in SG Ball. Reedy, I think you had 4 guys from South in your top 50 schoolboys.
They got big hopes for that Taj Alvarez, I think it is.
And who's the young kid, Jennings?
Dane Jennings. Dane Plain.
He made schoolboys, Australian schoolboys, but
there's been some concerns with their pathways for a while now, Mobsy. And I think they finally realised that they need to fix that up. With their underage, did I say schoolboys? With their pathways, I said, I think they've realised they need to fix that up. So I think they're sort of on top of that now. But it has that trickle-down effect. As you said, when you miss players in the NRL, the New South Wales Cup side gets stripped. When the New South Wales Cup side gets stripped, you've got to get them for Flegg or somewhere else. So it's sort of had this trickle-down effect, and that's sort of explains to a degree why all their lower grade sides are struggling. But I look at South, right, and their results in recent years have probably papered over those cracks in the lower grades. We're seeing that now. But, man, they gave one. The bigger issue for me with South is they've just had year upon year of injuries. They need to fix it. I don't know how they fix it because they have done... they've brought in external people to review what's going on.
Change venues, right? Because all this stuff started when they were at Redfern as well.
They've just got this cursed run of luck at the moment. Maybe they've just got a group of players at the moment who are, sadly, prone to injury.
Which one of those 4 sides is the closest to a premiership?
Well, mate, I actually think Souths are. Like I think South's the closest to a premiership.
I think Parramatta.
Do you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I just think they've got the build. I don't think any of these sides are going to win the comp in the next year, right? So if you don't win the comp next year, those South players the year after, a lot of them are going. A lot of them are gone.
I think if South, just say in the off season they land in the middle, right? They get Cam Murray back.
Yeah.
Latrell has a season where he doesn't get injured.
Yeah, they're 1 to
Cody
13
has a
still
season
very
where he
good.
doesn't get injured. Mate, I still think Latrell, a fully fit Latrell on his day, is capable of doing anything.
He's got to play 20 plus games.
I know. I'm
that's-
saying
like-
if he gets 20 plus games out, he's fit come finals time. He's in the mood.
I don't think they can win the comp next year, right? So after that, like Cody Walker will be probably gone, right? I don't know how long Jai Arrow's got. You know, he's played a fair bit of footy now. You know what I mean? Like you forgot Keon. Keon's a gun too. I love Keon. So like, I don't know. I feel like their window where they played a few prelims, played in the grand final, I feel like it's closed now for that core group.
See, I reckon
they need a turnover.
I wouldn't put a line through him next year.
To win the comp?
I just think Latrell is that good a player. If you can have a season where he's fully fit and then get Cody to play a full season. Look at that, mate. That team, Campbell, Graham.
The 1 to 13 is very good.
Yeah, it's a really good
It is
team.
good.
They just need, if they can get in the off season and sign maybe a Braden Hammond and Ueli or a middle from somewhere, that's where they need to strengthen. Junior Totola comes back and he sort of looked like he was back to his old self a little bit before he got injured. I think they're the sort of side who can make the 8, and when they're in the 8 and Latrell's in the mood, man, they can do anything.
They can, but I think all those things you discussed keep piling up against them.
I agree, yeah.
You know, Cody Walker's getting to that age where he's starting to pick up more and more niggles. Latrell hasn't played 20 plus games since joining the club. The salary cap issues they've got, the Lewis Dodd money, how they don't have a lot of room to move. I think there's so much working against them.
Everything needs to go right for them.
It does.
But I'm saying if everything went right for all these 4 teams, they're the one that I could see giving it a shake.
The Cowboys, I'll go back to that quickly. I can't fathom how that roster isn't doing better than it is.
That's why the coach is under pressure.
Yeah.
You know, because we all look at that roster and go, Dearden, Nanai, Cotto, Drinkwater, Purdue, Robson, Griffin Neem, they should be in the 8, entrenched in the 8. That's why Todd Payten's under the pump, and there's a lot of talk about whether he survives beyond this year. The way they've played in the last 3 months, unless they have a dramatic turnaround in the next 5 weeks, I don't know how he survives.
So the impending arrival of Dylan Brown to Newcastle set to force one of their halves guys out the door, Mickey Karianis.
Yeah, it's a bit of a jigsaw this, the way it looks like it's going to go. So Jack Cogger at Newcastle was signed from Penrith off the back of that impressive grand final performance where he came off the bench and really helped spark Penrith to life. He's got another 12 months left on his deal. Looks like he's going to head back to Penrith. Penrith have an opportunity there in that halves position because Brad Schneider, who was unused off the interchange bench in last year's grand final, is close to agreeing to a deal with the Dolphins, which could in turn see Sean O'Sullivan go from the Dolphins to Canterbury.
Yeah, and the Dogs have like Sean's got a really good relationship with Cameron Ciraldo. They know each other from Penrith, and I reckon they see Sean as the perfect guy to mentor their young halves at that footy club. You know, obviously Mitch Woods. And Lockie Gelman's very intelligent footballer, Sean O'Sullivan. He'll be a coach one day in the NRL, Sean O'Sullivan. So, and Jack Cogger, as Mick said, I mean, he's got a history at Penrith. Those talks, I believe, are progressing quite well. I think Newcastle may have to stick some money in to make that deal happen. And as long as they do that, I would suggest that'll happen. And as Mick mentioned, Brad Schneider of the Dolphins, he's got a bit of versatility as well. Brad Schneider could play played a bit of hooker on the weekend, didn't he? So there's a bit of movement there, Mobsy.
Yeah, interesting around Schneider with the Dolphins. How do you see that working? Qatar obviously at 7. Who's the 6 next year?
Nicarima, Cody Nick. But they've been after. They've had this obsession with a half for the last, Daly Cherry Evans and
George Williams.
George Williams. They were desperate to sign George Williams, but couldn't get to an agreement for his transfer fee with the Dolphins in Warrington. So it's only a 12-month deal, and I think the door's still open for George Williams to eventually end up there after next season. So. I think he's signed as a genuine backup because Cody's been outstanding.
Has been great
when he's played, right? And Katoa's obviously the starting half. Yeah. So I think he's there to add some depth, and he's all those guys are great depth signings.
Yeah,
Cogger, we've seen a job that he can do when he's not the premier half. Schneider, has done the same job as, well, essentially signed to replace Cogger. And then Sean O'Sullivan, as Reedy mentions, bounced around lots of clubs, had different experiences, but he can do a job, on the odd week. So if these guys are your third tier halves, I think you feel comfortable heading into next year.
Yeah, that's interesting around Sean O'Sullivan, because our Code Sports player agent poll that we did, he came out fairly high up with the question of who would make a good coach going forward, and he was high up that list.
Mate, he is a very, very intelligent footballer, and Sean's issue's never been how smart he is now, football smart he is on the football field. And you speak to anyone in the game. Obviously, his dad's been around the game a long time. Peter O'Sullivan, one of the best recruitment scouts, if not the best in rugby league. And Sean, man, he is highly intelligent. His football acumen is as good as anyone in rugby league. And I'm sure if he ends up at the Dogs, I've got no doubt that when he retires, he'll be on their coaching staff at some point in the future. And he'll, if he wants it, he'll be an NRL head coach one day. He's just that intelligent, and he's that. He loves rugby league like no bloke I think I've ever seen in the game. Like, he is just obsessed with rugby league, Sean.
More than this bloke?
No, not quite. Well, this bloke could have been a great coach. Just ask him.
No, I've never said that.
The interesting point about the Dolphins too is they're in the third year now, but because they didn't land that marquee in the first couple, they've front-loaded a few contracts. So they've got some salary cap money there to play with. So, and it looks like they'll be able to wait that 12 months to potentially get George Williams if
it's
if
so
that
interesting
comes up.
how much they want George Williams. Like even potentially waiting to he's 30. George, I think he'd be around 30-ish.
Has he been going in Super League? Has he been going good?
I don't know. I don't watch
Warrington
enough Super
stink.
League. I don't watch enough Super League. But the Warrington are going like busters. So.
I mean, Peter O'Sullivan, we mentioned him before, he set that club up so well for success.
Yeah.
The Dolphins. And you look at them now, they run around without Tommy Flegler,
They're doing
Tommy Gilbert.
They're doing ridiculous.
Man.
Their season has
forward
been
pack's
so
decimated.
understated, the Dolphins.
Travis Main, our great colleague there up in Brisbane, with some good news that Tom Flegler's had a green light in his latest checkup, so
Nice.
won't be seen this year, but could potentially
Hopefully.
put him in for 2026 round one, which would be awesome. We haven't seen him in nigh on 2 years, Tommy Flegler.
You're very generous when you call him a great colleague. Travie, that's very generous.
As a reporter or as a bloke? What
Just as a bloke.
Oh,
He's
right.
a pretty average bloke.
Good DJ though.
Oh, fantastic DJ. Yeah. But Flegler, good news for Queensland too. We've missed him. Sorry. We didn't miss him this year. We won in a canter.
Let the bloke just get back on the field and play footy again. Don't worry
He
about
was
Origin.
such an enforcer, Tommy Flegler. Such a good footballer.
Yeah, he's a
man.
good player, but let's just hope that he gets back on the field before he starts.
Could be another dynasty coming. Hello.
You're a gibber.